Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka Dean Tenney, coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. We have the honor of having two victorious test takers in the house, Erica and Jackie. Jackie just passed her 7. I'm assuming that means she passed her SIE, and I know Erica passed her SIE in her Series 7. I don't know why you wouldn't want to believe me about things, but you can always ask them in chat what they experienced, what their experience as victorious test takers were. Part of our weekly Q&A community chat is just to be able to reach out. Since the COVID, there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for cohorts to get together. And, if you're having a bad day, you have somebody buck you up with either lunch or adult beverage. And so maybe this can be a little bit of a substitute for that, as well as getting some questions answered. Oscar, 2 weeks out with the 66 isn't a problem. And good news, Oscar, we do start off with debrief. If you're new to our live stream Q&A, we start out with a debrief, and I have some 66 debrief, Oscar. Remember, every draw is a little different, so be careful that you don't get too much into a draw. So, okay, so a few takeaways. This is our first 66 debrief. Let me just make a note here. I like to timestamp for the replays, so if somebody's watching on the replay. By the way, these replays are also available as a podcast on Spotify as well. So if you're doing that, you can go there and find that. So let's get these debriefs out of the way. We'll do some housekeeping, and I'll answer any questions you may have. Okay, a few takeaways from this test taker. Major U.S. state laws, no surprise. What's excluded from the definition of an investment advisor? I like the memory aid late for that. This test taker said he knew all of the USA exempt securities and transactions. He memorized them, which I don't think is a bad idea. My friend Brian Lee Teskey has a nice little cheat sheet to help you memorize things. So let's see. 1 or 2 questions on federally covered investment advisors, 1 on deferred comp, a couple variable life, variable annuities. No surprise, lots on unethical business practices. No surprise. That's like 14 questions on the 66. You don't get a lot of target-rich environments on 66. And so whenever there's a target-rich area like unethical business practices, selling dividends, front-running, churning, that kind of stuff, you really want to make sure you get that down. Fundamental analysis, modern portfolio theory, efficient market hypothesis, strong, weak, and semi-strong. That's no surprise. Had to calculate total return and current ratio from a balance sheet statement. He's surprised he didn't get any net present value calculations. A few questions on the balance sheet, no surprise. Futures and definitions and basics, and manager tenure of a fund. And got the SOFA question, which he says is a freebie. Some of the questions on NASA exams are just stupid but testable. And there's a question that floats around about a SOFA being a personal asset on a client's balance sheet. Stupid but testable. All right, that's one. Here's our second. In my test, I saw 15 to 20 questions on what an investment advisor rep can't do. No surprise. That's the same thing as unethical business practices, by the way. Disclosure rules, 3 or 4 on joint tenants with rights of survivorship versus tenants in common. Efficient market hypothesis. Capital asset pricing model is usually the beta thing, right? What is your expectation of the return? So anyways, 1 on capital asset pricing model. Puts and calls, which protects against a loss. So in long stock, it would be a long put, and in short stock, it'd be a long call. 2 variable lives. They didn't get any questions, shockingly, they said, on any question about where an IAR has to register in a state. Let's see, in our third and last one, elder abuse, trusted contact persons. How long can we hold a disbursement from a customer account while we try and contact the trusted contact person? That's no later than 15 business days. What's the easy account to do transfer on death? I would have said individual account would have been my answer to that one. Current ratio, no surprise. They said that none of their divisions they did on current ratio was one of the choices. So what are you going to do? They had a beta of 0.85. So remember 0.85, and then they were asked what that means in terms of the market going up or down. And what that means is that the market goes up, you're not going to participate as much of beta 1, but when it goes down, you won't lose as much. So if it has less volatility in the underlying market, you don't make as much, you don't lose as much. Okay, so that was our how we start debriefs. I didn't get anybody with anything out of the ordinary on the other exam. So, but you should know that 65 is changing. The 65 June 12th is decreasing the score to 70%. Brian Lee and myself are doing a episode in our podcast about those changes, the change to the test specifications, the scores, and we'll also discuss some other changes as well. So make sure you know that. So as I said, our podcast can be found either on the YouTube channel or on Spotify. Tonight, we will be doing our live stream overtime, and I haven't reloaded free office hours. Most of the stuff at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, most of the stuff is paid. It's paid tutoring and paid classes. But there are some freebies on there. One is tonight's live stream that's already capped, and so there is no spots for that. Tuesday, I'll be teaching a Series 7 for Kaplan, so we will have our live stream, but we won't have the live stream overtime. Discount code for Guru 10 for Kaplan products and classes. For Test Geek Brian stuff, it's Guru 20. My Kaplan schedule for the second quarter, I'm teaching the Series 7 for Kaplan next week, Monday through Wednesday. I'm teaching a 66 May 31st through June 2nd. I'm teaching another 66 June 21st through 23rd. And I'm teaching a Series 9 for Kaplan on June 15th. I did pick out my third quarter schedule. My third quarter schedule for Kaplan is I'm teaching the Series 24 on July 17th. I'm teaching the SIE on August 7th. I'm teaching the Series 7 on August 14th. And I'm teaching the 66 on September 18th. We will be doing our drawing at the end of our time together tonight for a 30-minute coaching call. It's at 4:15. That should say Thursday, May 4th. I apologize. That should say Thursday, May 4th. It's recorded. It's shared with other test takers. You claim it by email within 1 hour of the drawing. It's not a floating liability I have to you. So if you can't make it, you can't make it. Oh, well. So you just send me an email, Dean, the Series 7 Guru at gmail.com, and I'll send you the Zoom invite for your coaching call. It's basically anything you want to talk about. I just don't want to call it tutoring because tutoring is something people pay for. Easy way to navigate the channel, attitude of gratitude. I'm so thankful for you folks. We're coming up on 2 million views and 20,000 subscribers. Crazy. I just want you to understand that the easiest way to use the channel is to find your series playlist. There's like 500 videos. If you go into the videos, it's going to be hard to find the needle in the haystack. So if you're taking the SIE, you find the SIE playlist, and then you hit the button, and then all those videos come up in suggested watch order. If there's more than one playlist for your particular series, I have that in suggested watch order as well. Okay, that takes care of our housekeeping. So let's go back and get the comments and answer some questions. Oh, by the way, it will help me if when you're asking questions, if you just put a Q in front of that, and tell me, what exam you're taking. That way I can pull it out a little easier from the chat, from people who are just, using chat to talk to our victorious test takers like Jackie and Erica, which I highly recommend you do. But it'll help me then, pull that out of there. If I miss you, don't feel jilted. Just put it back in there. It just means, I missed you, and put it back in there. I'm more than happy to circle back. All right, let's see here. Yeah, there you go. I think, again, the channel is a free supplement to your paid study materials. It's not a substitute for your paid study materials. I get a little aggravated sometimes when it's not a time to be frugal. Don't try and not spend the money. You need to invest in paid study materials, whether that's Kaplan or STC or Past Perfect. And then my channel is a free supplement. And then you want to consider perhaps making an additional investment in a paid supplement. Whether that be Test Geek Brian as a paid supplement or Kaplan QBank as a paid supplement, whatever the case may be. All right, another victorious test taker. Wow, so now we have 3 victorious test takers in the house. Erica, she's passed her SI in 7, working on her 66. Jackie just passed her 7, and Cheryl's passed her 65. Well, that 65, Cheryl, I think is a real challenge. So kudos to you for taking that down, man. That's no walk in the park. So again, if you don't want to take Dean's word for it, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you do, you can ask Cheryl about her experience on the 65. There you go, TV. So Cheryl's in the house, and you can ask her as well. Oh, well, I don't know about that. I think Kaplan's the best. Otherwise, I wouldn't be teaching for them. But to each their own, to each their own. Third time's a charm. That's the right attitude, Trina. I mean, I know some very successful people in our industry who've had the misfortune of not passing their exam the first time out. And, it bodes well for your future because, people who've never met a challenge before. Sometimes, they get the first one, they fall apart. So, yeah, get that third one done. And like I say, don't get, you want to have a certain amount of your self-esteem wrapped up in it, but don't get too much self-esteem wrapped up. And it's just, the 7 is just a barrier to entry into the securities industry. And, we want to be the few and the proud, not the many and the humble. So any industry that has the earning capability that, our industry does is going to have a certain amount of barriers to it. And it's a rite of passage, so to speak. I'm not sure what you want to know, Vandana, about the consolidated tape system. The only question I would know is that we need to report trades within 10 seconds. So, when you're watching CNBC and watching that tape go by, those trades have to be reported within 10 seconds. Yeah, 15% less volatile. That's exactly what that means. So there's some more debrief for you from Jackie's exam. Her 7 balance sheet complaints are a 4-year record. I would definitely know complaints are a 4-year record. I don't know, Jackie, on the balance sheet. I would know the classical balance sheet equation. I would know working capital. I will, Jackie, at 11:29, for those of you who are new to the channel, I will link a balance sheet lecture I have for folks in the video description for the replay. So, but anyways, I would know current ratio, quick ratio. I would know debt to total capital. The 66 is a little more, 65, 66 has more balance sheet stuff than does Series 7. Suitability is huge, but it's based on product knowledge. So, 91 questions on the Series 7 are about product knowledge, and suitability flows from that. And what makes suitability questions challenging is that they're judgment questions. The 3 styles of questions you get on your exam are recognition, practical application, and judgment. Right? And judgment questions are the hardest ones. You shouldn't be giving up recognition like I just gave you one. Trades need to be reported in 10 seconds. Regular way settlement on an option contract is T+1. You can't be giving that stuff up. Practical application would be, working capital or current ratio or break even. Can't be giving that up. No interpretation of the answer. And then the hardest questions are the suitability questions where they, you get into a 50-50. Some of them are straightforward, like, if you're rich and need tax-free income, buy a muni, right? If you need liquidity, don't buy a partnership. But, someone can be challenging. And then recommendations fit in with suitability, right? Elder abuse have been coming up a lot. Elder abuse. So remember, what we want people to do is have a trusted contact person. NASA just put out in FINRA a nice little video on trusted contact persons, and 1304. I will link to the trusted contact person thing from FINRA. The main test question about having a trusted contact person is that if we suspect elder abuse, we can contact the trusted contact person, and we can withhold disbursements for up to 15 business days. I would also know that the trusted contact person doesn't have any authority to trade on your behalf. It's not a power of attorney. Options, simple math, investor attitude. Yeah, risk tolerance is huge. Risk tolerance is huge. Look at this, man. We got so many victorious test takers in the house. Suro deep, another one. So what's that now? We got, of our 30 folks in the chat, we got 5 at least victorious test takers. I thank you so much for coming, guys, when you passed your exams, because I don't know, I would defer to the 25 people who haven't tested yet, but I think it's so good for morale. It's such a good morale boost to have people who, have passed their exam. And I told you, Erica's one of my favorite students of late because she puts in the work. I don't interact with a lot of people. I'm sure they put in the work or they wouldn't get the pass. But when people really do the work, you go, oh my goodness, if anybody deserves that P, it's those people that put in the dedication, the discipline, and the organization to get it done. So thanks for popping by again. If you want to ask any of these victorious test takers, you feel free to do so in the chat. It's not, I don't have a website, XJ. I have no website. I probably should get one. I'm just getting to the point where I probably should have a website. And people ask, how can they buy stuff on the channel? There's nothing to buy. It's all free. So I don't. But I will show up in the Kaplan schedule. And on the community page of the YouTube channel, I will post my Kaplan schedule. Usually my name doesn't show up until I tell them, the classes I want to teach. So the second quarter, my name would be as the instructor. Third quarter, that wouldn't be there yet. So, all right, pineapples in LA or pineapples in La La Land. Yeah, Ben, that's huge. The biggest part of the SIE is, again, understanding investment risk. That's 33 questions, but what reps can't do is big time test fodder as well. Yeah. Well, Mike, I have a video on regulations. I'll put it 1534. I'll link it in there. I would tell you that most people, when they say they missed their mark, it wasn't regulations. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. Know where the chalk lines are. Know about 33 and 34. Know about the code of conduct, the ethical behavior that associated persons and broker dealers owe customers. That would be, don't sell dividends, don't front run, don't make breakpoint sales. So I don't think that would be something that usually causes people to miss their mark. But I will link to a video in the replay in the video description for you. Assuming you're taking the 65 or 66, because that's the only place it shows up. On the 65, 66, I would expect at least one, sometimes two. And usually it's the strong form, nothing works, and the weak form. They don't usually typically ask about semi-strong. If you are taking the 65, I see that. Check out Brian and I's podcast. We have 6 episodes. One of the episodes, we go over efficient market hypothesis. So I haven't had time to timestamp that yet. And you can also find that in the playlist for the 65 under analytical tools. Jackie, that question shows up all the time. So on Series 7, error in execution, the broker dealer is liable. Error in report, the customer is liable. So if Jackie gives me a limit order to buy 1,000 shares at 18, and I call her and say, hey, you bought it at $17.95. And then I call her back and I say, hey, Jackie, I'm sorry, you bought it at 18. All right, that's not an error in execution. She said 18 or less, it's 18. And so that's okay. That's an error in report. Now, if that happens too often, Jackie's going to get a new broker. But, in terms of error in execution, so now I'll say it again. So she gave me a buy limit at 18, and we did the trade at 18.05. That's an error in execution. So that's on us. That's not on Jackie. Jackie's not going to pay at 18.05. When we can decide whether, if there was a trade available and we missed it, then she's going to get that. But it's pretty straightforward, and it is testable. Error in execution. I'm taking notes on what's in the playlist so that we can tell people on the replay. Chris, all right. So many victorious test takers in the house. I love it. Another victorious test taker. So if you're taking a 66 and you don't want to trust Dean's word for what's on the test, check in with Chris in the chat. 3 weeks on 65 is plenty of time. 525, plenty of time. I joke the difference in tragedy and comedy is the timing. If they were just in Act 6, Scene 1, everybody on the stage would be alive. So, just make sure that you're paying attention to that timeline, because it will start collapsing on you pretty rapidly. And so, if you don't give yourself enough time, like 7 to 10 days out, Mary, we should kind of know whether you need remediation or not, because 7 to 10 days out, is where you still have time to make course correction. Once you get into that last 3, 4, 5 days, there's not much course correction you can do. So. Well, obviously, Vandana, I am a senior instructor of Kaplan. I'm a Kaplan emeritus kind of guy. I'm not really a Kaplan paid employee, but I spend a lot of time with Kaplan, and they do contract with me to teach their classes. And obviously, if I didn't think Kaplan was the best, I wouldn't be teaching for Kaplan, and you wouldn't have all that Kaplan content on my YouTube channel. So obviously, I'm a Kaplan guy. I think Vandana Past Perfect is their sales team deserves bonuses because their sales team is excellent. I think they've convinced broker dealers that there's something to be said for tormenting people trying to pass their test. And my only comment or complaint about Past Perfect is it does go into the weeds. Now, it's better to know too much than not enough. So I'm a big fan of over learning. But I would recommend, if you are using Past Perfect, either use the channel as a free supplement or Kaplan QBank as a paid supplement, just so you can confirm what issues, are Past Perfect in the weeds and what are on the test. Because they make you do some outrageous math that you're not going to have to do. So obviously, I'm a Kaplan guy. The channel, the live streams is agnostic. I'll help you with any test prep vendor question you have or anything like that. So, the channel's not a Kaplan channel. There you go, John. So, man, we got all kinds of victorious test takers. What's that, number 8? I should have counted how many victorious test takers on all different exams. So we have a victorious Series 7 test takers, SIE, 65, 66. Oh, wow. Woo! So good. So good. The best areas to focus on, Cora, is make sure you can do POP NAV calculations. So 2034, I'll link to a mutual fund video for you. Mutual funds are going to be very testable on every exam. So SIEs, Series 6, Series 7, Series 65, 66. So, if I give you the POP and NAV, you need to be able to calculate the percentage sales charge. You should definitely know that can't be more than 8.5%. If I give you the NAV and the percentage sales charge, you should be able to recalculate the public offering price. You definitely have to be able to contrast open-end with closed-end funds, how they're different. You have to be able to contrast an open-end fund with an ETF, and you have to be able to contrast an ETF with an ETN. So the 3 biggest areas on investment vehicles on your Series 7 are mutual funds, munis, and options. So, Cora, that munis, I'm glad you asked. I don't know if it's hubris or what, but people don't pay enough attention to mutual funds. More people get where they're without crashing and burning in a mutual fund than any other product. I would also, Cora, know the difference between A shares, B shares, and C shares. The A shares are the traditional front load. I would definitely know about letters of intent and breakpoints, and know that letter of intents can be backdated to 90 days and no more than 13 months. You get the reduced sales charge up front. So there's lots of test questions there. I know investment clubs don't qualify for reduced sales charges. So, like I say, there's easily a dozen so questions on that. So good question. I think my answer doesn't help you focus too much, but it's all there. So, Cora, like I say, I'll link to Corey in the chat. Just let me know. Do you want a long video or you want a short video? Long video, or Dean's videos are like an hour, but they have everything. And then I have what I call shorter versions. They're carve outs. They're 15, 20 minutes. I think, Cora, what I'll probably do is link to a tutoring replay I did with a young lady on Series 7. Sometimes people who are paying for tutoring will give me permission to share their tutoring session with other test takers. And I have a really good session I did. I think it's like 15, 20 minutes. And I'll post that, probably is what I'll post. And then you can always find more if you want. Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. Take a deep breath. I would suggest before you do any math, you just take a strategic pause and say, do I really have to do this math, or is there a shortcut? For example, if they're asking me the yield to call in relationship to the yield maturity, it's a bond at discount. I can just use my teeter-totter. I don't have to do any math. So, before you do math, just think about it first. I do not suggest the 66 ahead of the 7, but people do it. Most of the time when people are doing the 66 ahead of the 7, it's because they don't have sponsorship. So, people do it. There's no order, but I think the SIE will help you build on the 7. So the better you do executing an SIE study plan will pay huge dividends on your 7. And the work you do on your 7 will pay big dividends on that 66. So that would be the natural progression that almost everybody does. SIE, 7, 66. If you go to my homepage on the channel, that's what I have, 7, SIE, 7, 66. But, some people, you mix it up. I don't know why you've been doing that. Somebody did tell me they had a firm that was telling them to get the 66. And then they might make them an offer to do the 7, which I'm not a big fan of. I wouldn't be. The other thing I would tell you is that 65 works without a 7. The 66 does not work without a 7. So if you just get like a 65, that doesn't require sponsorship either. And then at least you can get a job at a fee-based investment advisor. You can't do anything with just a 66 dangling without some 7 with it. So I'd give that strategic thought. There you go. Yeah, Jackie, I saw somebody posted that from Achievable, and that looked like a pretty good dump sheet. Everybody should make their own, though. I don't believe in you should have physical ownership of things. Physical ownership, it means, you use somebody else's dump sheet like Achievable. You need to make your own. And so what I would suggest is use that as a model or whatever dump sheet it is. If I told you could have one sheet of paper on it, anything front and back, what would be on it? And if every morning, every night before you went to bed and every morning before you got up, you thought about that or tried to write that out, by test time, you'd be able to do that data dump. I would certainly have the matrix. I would certainly have the teeter-totter. I would have some memory aid devices. I will link to my video tips, tricks, and memory aids for Series 7. And it has a lot of fodder for a data dump sheet. And then, like I say, you should make it your own, because so he said, I memorized the options matrix. I go, you did? Well, let me see it. And then they didn't memorize it because they couldn't write it down. So just be careful. You don't use that as a crutch, and you can't do the flush when you get to the exam. Now, when you get to the exam, the clock will be starting against you. It'll be running. So, make sure you can do that in a timely fashion. Some people are fans of data dump sheets. Some people are not. Again, it's a personal preference. But if you just Google that, you'll find all kinds of good ones, and Achievables is certainly a good one. There you go. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks. I don't know, Cheryl, why people don't want to believe me. My haters call me the old dude. I'm an old dude. I am. I've helped thousands of people over decades pass these exams. That should be a good thing. It should be a good thing, not a bad thing. I think the QBank is a great investment. The QBank with the Guru 10 discount code at checkout is about $60 for the 7. I really think that QBank is really helpful because it can help you find your areas. There's a performance tracker. I would be my first paid supplement. And then Brian, I think the Test Geek, his videos are a great paid supplement. By the way, I know there's some people that love Achievable. I'm not a big fan of Achievable because of correlation. And what I mean by that is I can't count on. We just had somebody today. They said they got like an 85 on Achievable and they missed their mark. I know what the correlation is between Kaplan and those scores and the test. Anyways, my point was, in terms of an investment, a Kaplan QBank and Brian's Test Geek video series comes in at about the same investment. And I just think it's a better investment for what it's worth. Yeah, I totally agree with you on Bass Perfect. There you go. Well, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you popping in and sharing your victory with us. Like I say, you're always welcome, victorious test takers in the house, to show up any Tuesday you'd like, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you paying it forward with victory posts on our sister Reddits, and even paying it forward with the video comments. So thank you so much. I think, Ben, unit 2 is the investments, the characteristics, I believe, Ben. But remember, unit the biggest part of the SIE is characteristics and risks of investments. And so I think that's unit 2. I'm not sure. But if you send me an email, I can find out for you. You should be able to match that up with the, let me just give you my email. There we go. So if you just send me an email, I can match that up for you. You should be able to do it based on the SIE content outline and go through there. But, stocks, bonds, real estate, I highly recommend, and I will link to it. I have a video. It's, very, very popular, where I actually go through that section of the test. And I will link for that at 2833 SIE characteristics. That's 33 questions. And then you can see that, and I think it'll be easier for you to match it up. Okay, let's see where we're at. Well, Giselle, make sure Thursday night you get some good rest. Reading skills are really, really important. You might want to reread 2 areas. I don't know if you're using Kaplan or not, but whatever vendor you're using, disclosures and unethical business practices are target rich. One of the challenges on 66 is there's a lot of twosies and threesies. There's not really narrative thread through those NASA exams. So there's not many, hunting holes where you can get a lot of points. And one of those hunting holes on both 65 and 66 is disclosures and unethical business practices. And then Giselle, the other thing is don't pay, just sometimes little people get some hubris a little bit on the 66. They pass their 7, they're feeling good about themselves, and they should. They go, what can they ask me about a mutual fund? I don't know. A bad attitude. So there are some things on 66 that are different from the 7. So, maybe you want to review For example, mutual funds, even though maybe I don't know how long since you had your 7, but that thing about open-end and closed-end funds is big on 66 as well. Yeah, there you go. I think the Jackie, I wish they'd let you at the site donate a dry erase pen, because, I can't stand it when the tip is like been used so much that it's, blunt and it's not sharp. But yeah, I would definitely do that. One of my pet peeves, Jackie, too, is people who have time constraints at the actual exam, because the only way that could be is that they didn't time themselves. And it's exasperating to me when people, they're 7, 10 days out, and I said, well, have you done a practice test? And they haven't done it, and they're doing their quizzes, and so they don't even know what that feels like on a physiology basis to sit down and do 125 performance opportunities. So yeah, anything you can do to model that behavior. For example, if you're taking the test at 1 p.m. on Friday, maybe you should be doing your practice exams or practice tests on 1 p.m. on Wednesday. So I do have some helpful hints on that. Last minute tips. I call it the day before your exam, Giselle, and I will put that video there the day before your exam. And you could use that for the same thing for your 2 days before. Yeah, Rachel, man, whether your test prep vendor is, make sure you get Kaplan is the dashboard, and they have updates and things like that. The guy who's the subject matter expert for the Series 7 is Bill James at Kaplan, and a good friend of mine. And the guy at Kaplan for NASA exams is Chuck Lowenstein, another good friend of mine. And, we always are talking about what's current on the exam, new changes. So, yeah, make sure you change. I'm sure that, STZ has crunch time facts. Kaplan has its quick sheets. So, yeah, make sure you take advantage of those resources. As I said, don't get frugal. Don't try and, get, frugal in a way where you're saying, oh, I'll just use the channel and Series 7 for Dummies. No. I mean, Series 7 for Dummies is a great, again, paid supplement, but it's not going to be sufficient to pass the test. 3 weeks, any tips? Yeah, build a study plan, Jasmine. So I will post a video about how to build a study plan and study blocks, and, where you should be. If you are using Kaplan, there's a study calendar that can help you reverse engineer based on your test date, what kind of activity level you're going to need to get that done. I have a kind of my version of that, and I will post that for you. Mainly, you need to, Jasmine, reverse engineer from that test date how many hours you think it's going to take you to get this done. So let's say we assume 60 to 80 hours for the SIE, depends on your background. And then we would build study blocks, 45 minutes, an hour and a half. And then if I were your accountability partner, Jasmine, I'd say, okay, how many study blocks are you going to commit to? 1 a day, 2 a day? Is it going to be in the morning? When's it going to be your day off? When am I going to see your first practice test exam score? That kind of thing. So I'll link that video for you. It's full of tips on how to execute a study plan. You need one. If you don't have an accountability partner, if you're your own accountability partner, I think that's sometimes harder. So, you can certainly use, our chats, our live streams, and as myself in terms of executing your study plan. I told you one of the reasons Erica is one of my favorites is because she executed her study plan. I mean, she had a plan and she was working it, right? So, that sounds silly, but a lot of people are kind of willy-nilly about how they're attacking this thing. And you're not going to pick this up by osmosis. So you got to do the work. You got to do the work. You're welcome. Yeah, Eli, man, I tell you, very rarely am I surprised when somebody misses the mark, and I don't think they're going to miss the mark, and so that just hurts my heart. It's some misfortune. I'm sure we're going to get over it, but that 10 is such a slog, man. I think you can almost miss the mark, Eli, when it's a few questions like that, just being tired. I mean, it's just a lot. So, supervisory communication with the public, okay, 529s. Eli, if you send me an email. Let me get my email. I think you have it already. I think we've had email exchanges. I'm more than happy to, to get on the Zoom with you, and we can discuss, do a little debrief and talk about what we're going to do next time to get you that P. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks. I like your dog. He looks very happy, very content. I like that. Yeah, well, Brandon Rith is great at explaining things. I have no problem with Brandon. I have no problem with the content. Only problem I have is the correlation of the practice questions. I do get a little upset when they go overboard on marketing. Like, saying they got 4 billion questions, which is ridiculous. They don't. They're just rotating the answer set. But I have problems with correlation with achievable practice questions and the actual exam. They are definitely, Ben. The Kaplan is definitely a benchmark. 92. Woo. So, Ben, with scores like that, I joke with people. If you have a score like that and you do miss the mark, you need a therapist and not a tutor or anybody, because there is no reason you should have any issue if that's what you're scoring on a practice exam from Kaplan. The only caveat I would add, and I don't want to be a downer here because I don't think it's going to happen, because SIE is a lot of recognition. But whether it's STC or Kaplan, make sure you're not getting a 92 because you've done it a half a dozen times. You go, oh, I remember it's B, it's C, it's A. So as long as you're not memorizing questions and answers, I think you're fine. Yeah, I definitely believe you should do that. Definitely believe you should do that. All right, man, we got so many victorious test takers in the house. Another one. So Daniel passed his 66. One calculated problem, not surprised. Total return, remember, is what you make from the income stream, the dividends, and price appreciation or depreciation. Wow, that is very much a surprise. No questions on Form ADV Part 2. Wow. Remember, every draw is a little different. So that sounds like I'm not surprised, a pretty standard draw. I joke about the draw, right? I mean, it's random, but I'm hoping for you a dream draw. Everything you studied shows up. You go, man, I don't know what the big deal was. But then there's face of death draws. You're like, oh my God. It sounds like Eli might have got a face of death draw in his series 10. But anyways, your first point there, I'm not surprised. And then I am surprised you didn't get any questions on the Form ADV Part 2. Yeah, Jackie, I'm with you. If you're getting a score like 92 and you can move up your test tape, do so, because it is kind of like an athletic event. And I'm with Jackie. You can peak a little too soon. And so with a 92, you're ready to test. And if you can, go test. I mean, there's no reason to just try and spend another couple of weeks on the thing. One recognition on balance sheet ratio is not surprising. Recognition, technical analysis. Remember, that's using charts, support and resistance, that kind of thing. A fundamental would be either top down or bottom up. Top down means we make a decision about the economy, we make a decision about the industry, and then we make a decision about a company based on financial statements, balance sheet, income statement, statement of cash flow. Bottom up would mean we look at the company, then its industry, and then the economy, and see how that all fits together. So not surprising, a lot of who qualifies. Yeah, registration of investment advisor rep, BD, and an agent of a BD. Yeah, that's no surprise. That's pretty testable. 512. Okay, well, that's not too bad. I mean, I'm kind of with Jackie. I mean, if you got a 92 and it's 10 days out, if you can, you might want to consider, Ben, moving that up. Exempt security transaction. I think a good way, I think of it, Daniel, not testable. Exempt securities are a laundry list. I just had the debrief where the guy told me he memorized this stuff. And then transaction is a verb, how you're selling it. So exempt securities are a list, right? An adjective is just a list of things that are exempt. And transaction is how you're selling it. A few current yield. There you go. Current yield is on every exam. Yield to maturity recognition, not surprising. Yeah, they're pretty straightforward on retirement questions. I think people get in the weeds on that unnecessarily. And I know test prep vendors go total overkill on retirement plans. Yeah, well, I'm with you. It's better, Ben. I'm a big fan of overlearning. It's better to know too much than not enough. So when you're executing your study plan, you want to overlearn everything, because that way, if you do encounter a bad draw, you're still okay. So yeah, I'm with you. You don't want to be, sometimes it is what it is. You got to take the test and maybe you're marginal, but par would be whatever your passing score is. So, one of the things we should talk about, Eli, is in my podcast, which I told you I will link. If you fail, what to do next. And one of those things is to, do a personal debrief and say, okay, where was I below par? Sounds like communications. Where was I at par? And what am I above par? And then work on trying to get that. It'd be better if we do that before we test, right, rather than after. There you go, Cynthia. Boy, yeah, Cynthia, please. I know you're busy because, we've talked. But yeah, at some point you got to pull the trigger on this thing and carve out the time, get it done. Because otherwise the longer you delay, the more epic proportions it takes on unnecessarily. Right. So Cynthia, good news, I guess, as a loyal member of the channel and somebody who's taken some classes. We offer evening classes. I haven't put the next sequence of classes up, but when I do, if you've already paid for that class, you get a free repeat on it. So, if I do a debt securities class here in the second quarter, simply you won't need to pay again for that. Yeah, I have a whole every series. I have your series in 60 minutes. I have a playlist for it now as well. So I'll link that for those folks. It's in the playlist for the actual series, but it also has its own playlist as well in the podcast section, and I will link to that. Yeah, you got it, dude. Yeah, we'd be surprised if Ben doesn't pass for that. I'm not a big fan, Justin. I'm not. I mean, the days of cramming the night before are not, are over. Maybe that worked in college. I think the problem with cramming the night before is whatever you put into your brain housing group, it pushes something out the other end, right? So I think you got to go with what you got. So I'm a big fan that the night before you should be worried about getting some rest, particularly on NASAA exams, because your reading skills are going to be so important. And I don't know about you, but when I'm not well rested, my reading skills are greatly diminished. And boy, RTFQ, RTFA, you got to read the full question on NASAA exams, read the full answer. And so I just think that's counterproductive. That's just, again, it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. But I'm not a big fan. I'm a big fan of Justin closing down my study effort. Let's say I'm testing Friday, shutting down my study effort Thursday lunchtime. Do some low-key stuff Thursday, maybe do my last practice test Wednesday in this timeline. And then Thursday night, I would do whatever I like to relax me. For me, maybe a nice single malt scotch and a nice Cuban cigar, and just kind of, put on my game face, so to speak. So whatever that is for you, that would be my suggestion. 74 is fine, Willie. 74 is a good score. I think if you're in the 70 plus range, you're not at risk. That's lower than probably most of your firms want or most of your accountability partners want. But I would be surprised if you're scoring 70 plus consistently and you have any kind of a problem. So rinse and repeat with that kind of score with 10 days out. You should be able to do 3, 4, or 5 more practice tests. Practice tests are not to learn. Practice tests are to get the mark, right? So Willie has a mark now of 74, and that's helpful for us to know whether he needs remediation or not. I don't think he does. So that means rinse and repeat. Now, if he got something less than 70, then we'd say, okay, well, we need to come up with some kind of remediation plan of some sort. So I think what you're doing is working, and that's what I continue to do. And I told you 65, we have a victorious test taker here on the 65. And the 65, I think, can be as challenging as the 7 because it's big, man. It's a lot of stuff on that 65, right? Lots of investment stuff, lots of legalese. So that's every time I think about it, I think the 65 can be harder than a 7, just because at least the 7 has a narrative thread to it. It has a narrative thread, functions and it makes sense. 65 is all over the place. Yeah. So like I say, it's just, I'm not worried if somebody chooses to use Achievable as a paid supplement. Again, I think there's better investments. But that being said, I am concerned, not on the SIE, because SIE, you're not at risk. But on the 7, I would be concerned that was my paid study materials, and that's all I had. There you go. That's plenty of time. So I don't know where you're at in your study effort, but between now and the 31st, there's certainly plenty of time to execute an SIE study plan for sure. Hey, Dean, a week out from taking my Series 7. I'm trying to get better. So, trying to read these things because I told you we do have this available now as a podcast on Spotify. And it doesn't, I forget that people may be listening in their car. And if I don't read the questions, then they don't know what it is. So, Joseph, I'm just going to read this. So if somebody's listening, they can know what we're talking about. Hey, Dean, a week out from taking my 7. This will be my 3rd attempt. Ooh, that's big time. Lots of pressure there, right? Because if you don't get it this time, 6-month wait. 68. Now, that's what I really hate scores like that. 68. Scored 68% my last time. That's not knowledge deficit. That's some other variable. Changing answers. I don't know what it is, but it's not that you didn't do it. P.S. That's why most firms will give you another shot. Most firms know that if you get 60 plus, that you put in the work. So I just had a guy, he was in the same situation and he passed, and well, thank goodness, right? a lot of his life was hanging on in the balance. My firm uses STC, but purchases the QBank to see more questions. Love that. and recommendation from our Reddit community. I love our Reddit community. I like the Reddit community, R Series 7 for SIE and Series 7 on the Reddit. I usually pin the comment on the in the box. You can find it. We have R Series 6 for Series 6. We have R66 for 63, 65, 66. We have R Series 24 for 9, 10s, and 24s, and they are great communities. What I like, Joseph, you can remain anonymous. I'm not anonymous. I think everybody on there knows it's me, but you can remain anonymous, and I think sometimes that makes you feel more comfortable asking questions, getting recommendations, or if you don't like Dean, you can say whatever you want to say, and I won't know who it is. What should I be scoring? Any advice for this next week? I would like you in the 70s on your practice exam. I don't see here, Joseph, in your comment that you told us what your score is. And remember, when you're in chat, everybody can see your chat. It disappears after our live stream, but it's there for people to see. I would like to know that score, Joseph. If you're 70 plus, I'm feeling pretty good. But if you're below 70, I think you're at risk. I'm not saying you're not going to pass. I've had people, get less than that and pass, but that's where I'd like to do. So I would want to get a practice score first. So get a mark. I'd want that to be in the 70, and then we can, talk about whether you need, again, remediation or not. So if you can put that in the chat or feel comfortable, that would be good. If not, send me an email and just tell me what your score is. And then, we can talk about that. Dean, the Series 7 Guru at gmail.com. Let me get rid of the banner. Okay, boom. There we go. Economic cockroach. I love that. Hello, sir. Taking my first exam, SIE, this month. Fidelity uses past perfect, which seems very math focused. It is. The acronym doesn't seem to be. That's true. Any opinion on past perfect? Well, I don't know if you were here earlier. I said they give you way too much math and way too much margin. Oh my God. In the tutoring replay, somebody paid me to spend, an hour just going over past perfect, difficult margin questions. And now the test is 3 or 4. So as I said earlier in the chat, I think the solution to that is to have a paid supplement so you can confirm at what point, if you're like watching my videos and you got a Kaplan QBank, you got past perfect, and I talk about it, past perfect talks about it, Kaplan QBank has questions on it, confirmation is on the test. If, you only see it in past perfect, Dean never talks about it, you don't see it in a Kaplan QBank question, then that's non-confirmation. And that's a hint that, that's something that past perfect is going down some rabbit hole on. But again, I have to say it's better to have too much than not enough. So if you're scoring 70 plus on a past perfect exam, you should feel real comfortable because it's tough. I do unfortunately think that sometimes people get stuck in the weeds on past perfect and never get out because of those difficult questions. They just get stuck in the mud there, so to speak. And so it does put some people at risk, but that's my thoughts on past perfect. Well, I have to get their permission to do that, and they've given me permission on the 6, but they use for their QBank the Kaplan QBank, and I haven't asked them for a 7 benchmark exam to do, which is their supplements, which are really good. Maybe I'll reach out and tell them we've had a request for that and see what they say. So far, everybody's good. I call it the frenemy model. So, Knopman Marks is a great firm, and, but they know that Dean is a, part-time Kaplan guy. So, I'm sure they kind of wonder what the heck is this Kaplan guy. I'm sure even Kaplan people wonder what the hell is Dean doing with that channel. So. Low 70s. Okay. That's great, Blake. Just make sure you stay consistently there. If we can push it higher, that'd be great, but I don't think you're at risk. 86 and 88. Wow. Justin, well, you're not at risk at all. So yeah, you can feel good enjoying that scotch because that's a great score. So I can't imagine you're at any kind of a risk with a score like that. Nicole, man, we have so many victorious test takers. I think this is the live stream with the most victorious test takers we've ever had joining us. I so appreciate it. You had a variable rate demand obligation. Wow. Was it lack of liquidity? Remember what it was about? Equity indexed annuity on the 7. That's crazy. That's on 65, 66 for sure. And the 65, 66 question is there's no negative reset. It can never go backwards, which means it's not a security because you can't lose your principal. So yeah, that's a kind of a strange draw, Nicole, but thanks for joining us. I so appreciate you victorious test takers popping in and taking a victory lap for other folks that they can see. Yes, people do pass their exams. Our Reddit community, oh my goodness, I know maybe the testing gods are smiling on us because we've had a really good run in all our sister communities as well with people passing. So that's always great news. Yeah, I think that's a good place to start is certainly with the SIE. I mean, that's what the regulators envision, that you're going to take an SIE, see if this is an industry you're interested in pursuing further, get some sponsorship, and get your 7. So I do think that's a great first step, right? So remember I kind of hinted at this, the securities industry essential. The number one thing essential to the securities industry are securities. And that's why there are 33 questions on securities, because that's what the industry is all about, right? So, yeah, I think our Kaplan NASA study materials are the best. I told you Chuck Lowenstein, Sam, is the guy who's in charge of the Kaplan. He's what's called the SME, subject matter expert. He lives for this stuff in a good way. I mean, he's kind of eccentric in a good way, right? I mean, like today I sent him an email. Oh my God, I got like a 4-paragraph return thing about explaining, the template. And, sometimes if Sam, think it's an area that's, I'm not quite sure. I think I should tell you not to worry about it. I'll send, my friend Chuck an email, say, what do you think? So yeah, you're not at risk if you got Kaplan study materials. Well, that's that reset they do in the auction, Nicole. I don't know what your answer set is, but that would have been my answer. My answer would have been, it's the idea that we're going to do an auction. The auction could fail, but that reset is done short term, right? So it's actually a long-term investment, but the reset is short term. All right. Well, did we make it all the way through? Did I miss anybody? Anybody got anything else before we do our drawing? Are you still here, Erica? Oh my God, look at this one. Joseph, 87, 93, and 93 on the last SDC finals. You are not at risk, my friend. Thank you for joining us from LinkedIn. I wasn't sure if my LinkedIn broadcast was going to work because I changed it to 5 o'clock from 5:15, and LinkedIn is really finicky about changing things. Next Tuesday, we will be starting at 5:15 because I'm teaching that. I told you at 7. And I think I'm not sure if I'm teaching East Coast or West Coast time. If I'm teaching East Coast, then it doesn't need to be 5:15. But anyways, I'm messing around with the timing. But anyway, so I'm glad to see you, Joseph. We've broadcast, by the way, to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube is the best place to join us. And then I said we don't broadcast to Spotify, but the replays are available on Spotify. On last STC, but I feel like I've seen the material that's repetitive. Well, that is a risk at STC. The STC QBank isn't as deep as Kaplan's. And I don't know if you told us when you're testing. I don't think you're at risk, but even if you memorize it, I don't think you're at risk, but you can memorize it. I feel good about the overall material and understand why wrong answers are wrong. That's good. Feel like annuities, taxation, alternative investments, are my opportunities. That's wonderful. Of all those, by the way, the biggest one is going to be munis. You're not going to get many questions. Well, annuities, maybe 3, 4, 5. But alternatives, very little. Taxation, very little. I haven't taken a QBank practice test yet. Just quizzes starting right tomorrow. Okay, so I'm assuming you mean the Kaplan QBank. Your score is going to drop because of the phraseology. So assuming you're taking a Kaplan practice test after doing STC, by the way, it's true of any vendor. Anytime you change vendors, your score is going to drop because of the phraseology. It'll take you a while to kind of get back into the swing of things. I think Kaplan's phraseology is the phraseology that is most similar to the actual exam. So that being said, if that's what you mean by that, Joseph, I wouldn't be too worried about a drop as long as you don't drop, below, 70. I haven't taken that. What score should I aim for? Anything above 70 is great. I think my guess is you're going to drop to like high 70, low 80 on your first Kaplan practice test. Series 7 dummies, I think it's a great investment. Again, it's a great investment. It's not a lot of money, and it's another source of questions. Again, I wouldn't want it to be your only study material, but it's good as a supplement. It's very excellent as a supplement. Momentrix is good as a supplement. There's a lot of cheap supplements, and Series 7 for Dummy is. So Erica's still here. All right. Thank you, Erica. Okay, so are we ready? Erica, what do you think we should put in the chat for our drawing? What should be our chat drawing? By the way, remember there's a 15-minute break, and some of you are registered for the Zoom overtime session, and that virtual classroom opens up at 6:15. No ideas, Eric, about what we should do for the... Oh, Guru. Oh, we haven't tried that one. All right, Guru it is. Now give me a minute to put it in there, guys, before you start doing this. Okay, and then let me find it. Whoop. Share screen. Boom. Okay, so put Guru into the chat if you'd like to participate in our drawing. And then remember, what you have to do is send me within an hour your claim on that. Only 3 entries? Wow, you're going to have a pretty good chance if there's only 3 entries. That's crazy. By the way, you don't have to participate. We always have like 30 people and, maybe half that participate. 10 anymore? So remember, this is a 30-minute coaching call, 4:15 Pacific time, Thursday. It's anything you want to talk about for any exam. Some people like to do practice questions. Some people like to get a whiteboard. Some people like to do slides, whatever you want to do. You can share that if you'd like. You can share your coaching call with somebody else, and you can also assign it to somebody else. So if you can't make it Thursday, 4:15, you can send the link to somebody else. Okay, are we ready? Last call. That's funny. We had 13 and it went down. Oh, 14. Okay, well, get it in there, guys. Get it in there. Okay, here we go. All right, Trina, you are the winner. So, Trina, just send me an email, deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. 4:15 Thursday. You'll get a Zoom invite once I get that email from you. I'll see you then. It is helpful, Trina, if you can give me a little agenda, what you'd like to talk about. You don't have to. I mean, we can just show up in the Zoom thing and do whatever, but it's helpful if you tell me what you'd like to do. Then I can plan about, whether we need, what we should have ready to go in terms of our session. All right. Anything else before we call it a night? Thanks so much. I really, really appreciate all you victorious test takers who came back, paid it forward. Just your presence is a real morale boost for everybody. So I just really, really want to say thank you. You're always welcome any Tuesday to pop in and say hi or, join the chat, whatever you'd like to do. If you are signed up for the live stream overtime, I will see you at 6:15. Anything else? Okay, well, remember, inch by inch, your Series 7 is a cinch. Yard by yard, your Series 7 is hard. You are welcome, Ben. I think you're not at risk, so consider moving that up. Best of luck. Bon chance, mes amis. That's good luck, my friends in France, in French. All right, everybody. If you're joined up for the overtime, I'll see you in 15 minutes over there. Okay, bye-bye.